From the continuity of the 2021 spin-off to Jigsaw's return, here's everything you need to know about Saw 10.
Then you know what the value of life is. And that's my way. And I brought proof.
But first, let's track back the events of the 9th movie in the Saw series. Spiral from the Book of Saw, which came out in 2021, had many elaborate death traps set for police officers. But because they were dirty cops, not many tears were shed. So who was the mastermind behind the traps? It couldn't be the notorious Jigsaw killer because he died in the 3rd movie, even though flashback scenes showed him in many more movies. As a result, we were introduced to another case of a copycat killer named Emerson. He killed dirty cops who killed his father after he agreed to testify against them. And at the end of the movie, he escapes, leaving Chris Rock's character, Zeke Banks, who was investigating the case, screaming and desperate. But one thing's for sure, even though many other franchises have come and gone, you'll have to agree that Saw is still going strong. What started out as James Wan and Lee Winnell's first low-budget movie became a worldwide hit because of its unique horror style. The first Saw movie accidentally started a subgenre of movies called torture porn.
On further analysis of Strom's fingerprints, it was found that the uric acid levels in the eccrine residue were inconsistent for an individual with an active epidural metabolism.
And what made the franchise stand out was its wild and confusing moral aspect to the genre. That's probably why it was so successful, on top of being extremely visceral and violent in a way that other horror films at the time were not. Oh, and the series was also memorable because of all the elaborate traps and deaths. As for Spiral, the recent movie in the series took some risks that paid off and others that didn't, which is pretty typical for the franchise. But this year, the series will return to its main plot, which revolves around the evil and complicated Jigsaw. But even though there is still a lot unknown about the movie, here's all the information I have on Jigsaw's next gory game.
I think I know what it is.
As leaked set photos have surfaced online, it's confirmed that Tobin Bell's Jigsaw is returning. It's fair to say that he did a lot to put this killer in the pantheon of fictional serial killers and monsters, just like Jigsaw and his death traps. Also, in the last few years, the actor has been in movies like A Father's Legacy and Eileen Wuornos' American Boogie Woman, as well as TV shows like Creepshow, MacGyver, and The Gloom. But what's fascinating is that the 80-year-old actor is still working and busy, which makes us even more excited for his return to his most famous role. On top of that, Kevin Grudert is back in charge of directing. He also directed the 6th and 7th Saw movies, Saw 6 and Saw 3D. So it's clear that he knows a lot about torture, Jigsaw, and the world of horror. Grudert has also had different roles in popular horror movies like Paranormal Activity 2, Jezebel, Jackals, and many more. As for the producers, Mark Berg and Oren Kulis, most commonly known for Saw and 2.5 Men, are also returning. Nick Matthews, who has worked on shows like Chuck and Spoonful of Sugar, is in charge of the cinematography. Luckily enough, the two screenwriters, Josh Stolberg and Pete Goldfinger, are also fans of the franchise, so I bet they'll be putting their all into this film. But I saved the best for the last part. Having worked on the Saw movies for a long time, for executive production, Daniel J. Hafner, Keturah Keston, and James Wan are also returning. Ain't that some good news? Now, while I jump with excitement for the thriller James Wan has planned for us, let's dive into the possibilities of Saw 10's plot. This is where things start to get tricky. You see, like the other movies in the series, not much about the plot has been revealed so far. This decision was probably made to keep important information from getting out early, since the franchise is known for twists and reveals that happen right at the end. But there is one thing about the story that makes it interesting to think about, and that's Tobin Bell.
The healthy have benefited while the potentially sick have been unjustly rejected. However, this formula does not take into account the human will to live. When faced with death, who should live? versus who will live.
You may remember that the actor made John Kramer, also known as the original Jigsaw, a popular character in the first movie. But the last time we saw him alive was in 2007's Saw 3. That's when the grief-struck Jeff killed him and failed the final test. Yes, he did show up in movies after that, like Saw 4 and Jigsaw, but only in flashbacks. And if Saw 10 is going to be about Bell, I think it'll probably be another prequel to the first film. The traps and games definitely seem possible on set because Jigsaw was an engineer. Plus, there's never been any evidence that the world of the franchise has any supernatural or magical elements. And based on this, it's very unlikely that the movie will take place in the present day after John is brought back to life. Or maybe it turns out that he had a long-lost twin brother who decides to take over as Jigsaw. The possibilities are endless. Now let's take a look at the unfortunate players and game masters of Saw 10. The big draw of the movie is supposed to be Bell's return as Jigsaw, but that doesn't mean he's the only character. As of now, Sineva Makoti Lund, Stephen Brand, and Michael Beach have recently been cast in the movie, but their roles have not yet been revealed. And even though I don't know who they'll be playing, it's likely that they'll be the unfortunate victims of Jigsaw's bad games.
Let the game begin.
On top of this, Shawnee Smith, a key cast member, is the only one who has been sent to return for the 10th part to reprise her role as Amanda. Starting out as a victim of the serial killer before becoming one of his apprentices, her character arc is definitely memorable, and most fans think it's one of the best parts of the franchise. And I'll have to agree on this one. She makes the franchise better in every possible way. So the recent report that she might return is very interesting. Well, one can only hope. With that said, we move on to our next question. When and where can you watch the upcoming gory game? Well, the good news is that they are already shooting Saw 10, but the bad news is that fans will have to wait a while longer to see the 10th movie of this famous series. The movie is set to release on October 27th, 2023, which means that Halloween will once again be Saw season. Let's go! But this makes me question the choice to release Spiral in May. While it was a strange choice, at least this one's gonna make up for it. I also think Saw is one of those movie series that is more fun to watch with a group. After all, isn't it a lot of fun to watch a painful game with a rowdy crowd? Thank goodness we can do that again in October later this year when Saw 10 comes out only in theaters. And of course, it will show up on video on demand and streaming services at some point, but let's be honest, the best way to see this movie is in a theater. People often label the Saw movies as torture porn, but even if there is some truth to this, are they really that bad? Many people want to experience these horrible things in the first place, and very few movies give us challenges that are so complicated and weird. But one thing is for sure, we're returning to the world of Saw, a world full of death puzzles. With that being said, that's all from me on everything you need to know about Saw 10.